Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen Squadron 42 stuff this time. Info has been added to the roadmap, taking us up to Q2 2020 for Squadron 42 Episode 1 and the planned release of the beta, sort of time-ish, maybe? Let's talk about that and let's go over the roadmap. Let's go over some of the prefixes to this information that was on the roadmap. Quality is the primary goal of Squadron 42, and as such, all timeframes are estimates, and they're subject to change. They won't release that game until they're happy and ready with it. Features needed for Squadron 42 might require extra work before going to the persistent universe. The roadmap outlines the 28 story chapters required for completion for Squadron 42 Episode 1. These chapters are not necessarily a full mission each. We're going to be discussing the features and mechanics that are required for completion here, though. They won't give us an individual breakdown of exactly what is required for each chapter, because it would be story spoilers. The information is pulled directly from CIG's internal JIRA roadmaps. Quality is always going to trump every other part of development as well, even if this causes delays, so I want to doubly outline that. They are recruiting more staff, and this is actually factored into their estimates, though this could cause delays if recruiting goals aren't met. Let's start with Q4 2018, which is the current quarter we are in. They plan to have Player Vault V2, this is improvements to the ability for players to leap over obstacles. They've also got Mantle V2, the ability for players to climb up to elevated surfaces. Both of these utilize the new motion warping tech for variable height obstacles. Work will focus on improving the look and feel with better hand placement and animations. Render to texture comm system improvements are also being made, such as more aggressive culling, more efficient lighting, and using environment probes for background scenes on lower spec machines. Q1 2019, so this work's presumed to be completed by the end of March 2019. They're creating an advocacy branded version of the Basilisk body armor. There's comprehensive DNA facial customization for characters going in there. They are creating the naval gunner outfit and the loadouts for the characters that use it. FPS realistic firing V2 is also in, the ability for NPCs to evaluate their proficiency with different weapons, use the best one suited to the situation, and employ appropriate tactics when facing the enemy and managing ammunition. Collision avoidance, the ability for AI to acknowledge objects, both static and dynamic, present on NPCs' paths and navigate around them effectively and realistically. AI spline paths, so this is going to be improvements on the new flight models to allow AI spaceships to request complex commands. Improvements to the heat system to provide a more systemic experience between items and vehicles. This is going to cover a variety of issues and their effects on vehicles, from how heat affects various components in a ship to incorporating heat values into a room, all the way up to defining the ambient heat of a solar system. They are improving the vehicle HUD system to support additional scanning and pinging features, including confidence levels for newly identified objects. Vehicle radar system updates to support environmental impacts. Improvements to the vehicle scanning system. This includes the ability to create false signatures and balancing the distance in which contacts can be detected between pings and scans. The new revised flight model is also there, including rebalanced thruster strengths for more momentum in flight, deeper integration with Item 2.0 systems such as heat, power, and fuel, redesigning the throttle for more direct control, redesigning the afterburner and cruise mode, ESP algorithms are being redone, the new gravlev system for handling is being done, and there's going to be numerous bugs and issues hopefully solved and fixed from the previous flight model. This also includes new atmospheric flight models with the addition of drag, uplift, and turbulence. The shape of your ship is going to have a noticeable effect in atmosphere now. If you've got a ship that looks like it can fly well, it probably will. They're improving the locomotion of characters up and down stairs, expanding the healing gameplay to allow players to use items with healing properties like the Medipen on other players or NPCs. They're developing the depth, look, and feel of player item handling. So some of the proposed goals for that are creation of carryable tools, setting up key carryable items like helmets, so you can grab them and move them around. Player free look, so this is going to be the ability for players to look away from where their weapon is aiming, allowing you to have more situational awareness while keeping their weapon trained on a known threat. There's going to be improvements to the player's jump mechanics, including falling and landings, improvements to the lighting system for particles, new shader features for rendering rocks, asteroids, and other naturally formed objects, water physics, building that core tech needed to allow for objects ranging from small crates to large vehicles to act realistically when interacting with water volumes, improvements to hard surface shaders to allow greater detail on man-made objects. There's going to be asteroid field generation improvements with the shape distribution and their appearance, all getting some improvements. Some of the tasks here will include looking at adding volumetric fog elements, mineable entities, and creating ring patterns. There's going to be improvements to the atmospheric flight effects, such as entry, exit, and contrails. Some of the elements that are going to be worked on include smoother systemic transitions from space to planet, contrail variants within a gas cloud, improved turbulence effects, and use of signed distance fields for atmospheric burn effects. They're also implementing a more optimized and scalable projectile management system that will cater to large-scale space battles. This feature will also improve smaller battles as well. Implementing a series of weapon projectile effect improvements, including a general visual quality increase to make different weapons and energy types more distinct. They're improving ragdoll properties such as joint limbs, collision, and other physical parameters in order to make the simulation react appropriately and accurately in all situations, including zero-G. So this is going to be like ragdoll bodies and that sort of stuff. They're making a missile launcher weapon, which I believe is Xi'an designed, and they are also completing the Greycat Industrial Pyro multi-tool at this time as well for Squadron 42. In Q2 2019, so this is probably the end of June time, they have planned for getting Shubin miner outfits done, creating and improving the baseline behaviors for 1v1 dogfighting situations for a pilot of standard skill. These behaviors will appropriately use all basic ship functionality like afterburners, G-force reactions, and various offensive and defensive tactics and maneuvers. And this is basically for the AI to use when you're fighting one of basic skill, if you see what I mean. Behaviors for pilots of ships that are heavily reliant on turrets also needs to be done here. So they're adding the functionality so that turret gunners will focus their damage output, bringing as much firepower to bear as possible, while maintaining the optimal distance and optimizing shield face exposure. So it sort of like shares information between all the AI crew and they work out how they should fight together. The ability for combat AI to engage the player using a whole arsenal of weaponry, reacting dynamically to both player behavior and the environment, and engaging strategically and realistically is also going to be added. The functionality to allow NPCs to use grenades and incorporate them into the flow of their combat behavior. Functionality for an AI wingman to receive and handle the player's commands. Improvements to the Medipen, temporary healing of non-serious wounds to get you back on your feet, basically. They're reworking and implementing the existing frag grenades. The creation and implementation of the Vandal Lance, which is sort of like a spear for melee attacks, but also big plasma projectile discharges, sort of like the Jafar staff in Stargate. The ability for players to customize some weapons and items while in inspect mode using attachments, components, and sub-items going to be added. So, for example, adding or removing a silencer, changing the scope of a gun, or changing batteries in a radio. Basic technology for spaceships to efficiently navigate through space using physics grids. On-demand physicalizing V2 is also in. So this is an enhanced piece of core technology tied to object container streaming that will only physicalize objects around the player that are needed. This feature is needed due to the sheer size of the universe and the number of objects in it. Aside from other users, this will help cut down on performance requirements and allow for smoother play. They're finishing off a few ships at this time as well. The Cydnus, a massive mining machine, colloquially known as the mining tick or spider miner, and they are also completing the Vandal Cleaver boarding ship. They are continuing the development of vehicle scanning mechanics to improve the system to deal with echo contacts and incorporating turrets and scannable objects into the system. They're improving the functionality for the vehicle fuel system, including both hydrogen and quantum fuel, to work with the new flight model. Some of this work will implement different grades and types of fuel and their associated performance adjustments, as well as scooping fuel from the environment. They're improving the look and feel of the current takedown mechanics for FPS combat, allowing for stealth kills with both knife and bare hands. This also implements close combat melee stuff, again with both punching, with bare hands, and stabbings with knives or sharp objects. Death animation improvements are here too, combining updated ragdoll properties with the animation system to make the death reactions of players and NPCs look more realistic. There's basic functionality for the player to be able to swim across the surface bodies of water and hazardous liquids. They're also adding drowning there. Player status system update. So the player status tracks the various well-being attributes of a character, which is currently health, stamina, and oxygen levels. This is going to extend to thirst, hunger, rest, inebriation, hygiene, and temperature as well. These will have knock-ons for player stamina and ability, and can be used by the AI behaviors to make intelligent decisions based on their own condition or the condition of others. So let's move on to Q3 2019 and what they've got planned to have completed by then. So physical damage system, making use of the physics engine to create a system that looks spectacular as well as behaves realistically when large objects such as ships are being damaged by weaponry or colliding with other ships, locations, or even planets. Some ships are being finished off in this patch as well: the Aegis Idris M frigate, the Drake Cutlass Red, and the Aegis Javelin Destroyer. There's improvements to shadow systems to allow for multiple large-scale shadow maps for things like capital ships. They're exposing part of the mission system to allow the design team to set up and execute the flow of different missions that will then converge into the global campaign. They're continuing the development of the interaction system, and this is going to let players select lots of different dialogue options and interact with more props in the environment and generally interact with the game. Some of the tasks include providing the player feedback for when items can't be used, adjusting UI elements to scale with geometry, and bind commonly used actions to hotkeys. They're also expanding the existing power system to provide systemic connected gameplay in environments and vehicles, including connecting the doors, lighting, and lift systems to power and dealing with impacts of EMPs. They're implementing the nav map into the radar display of ships as well to allow for greater fidelity for charting routes and providing information. There's going to be improvements to the vehicle scanning system to deal with background signatures and ambient noise, creating more depth in the various types of interference and identifying contacts within them. They are further developing the vehicle HUD system to also allow for notifications of being scanned by another target. They're creating functionality allowing for players and NPCs to traverse along surfaces in 0G by pushing and pulling your hands, but as well, they're going to allow you to use your EVA jetpack to simulate sort of gravity as if it's mag boots. They're also adding the ability for the player and NPCs to use smaller weapons while seated in the passenger's seat of a vehicle or ship. They are adding more visual animations for the player to use when interacting with buttons and switches in a ship cockpit. This will also include interactions with other machines and items in the game, such as locker doors and more. Functionality for AI pilots in ships to land on and take off from carriers, hangars, or landing pads and perform basic non-combat maneuvers like patrolling. Additional commands designers or players can impart to AI crew members like defend this area. The ability for AI to strategically use dynamic cover and react to the modification of the environment. Flight formations allowing for multiple AI ships as well as the player to fly in preset formations both as a leader or follower. Walk and talk systems, so NPCs basically being able to walk alongside the player or another NPC and maintain a believable conversation. Foundational tech to enable unique behavior and attack patterns for the Vandal. These fierce aliens have unique and unpredictable combat behaviors requiring specific technical needs different from the human characters. They're developing the ability for the player to fight alongside a companion NPC. The goal is to create a system in which you will be given the chance to have a companion that you can actively direct, but that is also smart enough to guide the player, support them in firefights, and provide ammunition or health packs to lead the mission to a success. They are designing and creating the Shipjacker armor as well, the heavy version of that. Improvements to in-game cloth, ropes, and soft body entities are being made. The Basilisk deployable shield is also going to be finished potentially at this stage. This is a shield that can be carried on your belt, and once activated, it will create a temporary shield capable of absorbing incoming damage from bullets or other projectiles, protecting the player behind it. Let's move on to Q4 2019. So this is the end of 2019, and they plan to have the Titan exosuit done for this time. So this is originally built for industrial purposes, the Titan exosuit. It's expanded to the military and combat operations as well, though it will exist in the PU. This version will have elements specific to Squadron 42. Aside from the art and animation involved in creating the Titan, the task will cover the design work needed to build the suit functionality and balance it in a combat space. This also requires AI to be able to use them and react to their presence. They are also planning to have core AI improvements done for the underlying systems for every AI in-game, from combat to non-combat NPCs to ships and the way they fly together, everything, the core systems. They're also implementing the functionality at this stage for veteran or ace-level combat pilots. Some of the behaviors will include decoupling, ship loadout-based behavior, or cleverly using the environment in their tactics. Functionalities allowing AI pilots to take advantage of planetary data and fight inside the atmosphere. FPS improvements to AI stealth protocols while hunting and pursuing players who are hiding or retreating. The implementation and basic functionalities for NPCs to move and transition between different types of navigation, from moving around ships to EVA to working out where elevators and trains are. Implementation of advanced mission-related functionality for AI NPCs. This is going to include behaviors like docking, radar usage, or anti-personnel protocol for combat ships. Social AI. So they're going to be populating the game world with NPCs who have different behaviors, resulting in a living and breathing environment. They will be able to interact with complex objects like food machines, carts, or airlocks, and other people. They will also keep track of their relationships so that a player can behave differently and influence their reactions and decisions. Improvements so that characters can use more dynamic conversations between each other and with the player, and those conversations will be influenced by player actions. NPC behaviors will also be influenced by dynamic events in the world. For example, if an electrical panel fails, an engineer will organize a repair of that. They're creating varied and believable combat behaviors for AI to adopt in battle. The AI will not only use a variety of weapons to create different combat situations, but will also have different ways of engaging with the player. This will also change based on whether they're solo or in groups. This task will also include creating varying levels of combat training and skill sets for certain areas or situations that the player will encounter. They also want to implement behaviors for melee ranged fighting, so using fists and weapons or knives as well, behaviors for NPCs to actually use that properly. Conversation system improvements, so this is going to be used by players and NPCs to interact, basically. Some of the work associated with that is going to include smooth animation transitions, code support and UI adjustments, setup and improvements for character and AI door use, as well as hatches and vents, and airlock use is also going to be made. The ability to use mounted guns on vehicles and on the ground, they're adding. The ability for players to push and pull objects is also planned to be done by then. They're improving the look and feel of player locomotion, specifically augmenting standing and crouched stances, both with and without weapons equipped, to create a smoother player movement experience. What else? The ability for players to enter a slide and move a short distance. They're rebuilding the game's basic physics engine to accommodate the scale of the game and perform to the highest degree while delivering a believable physics simulation for all areas. There's a series of improvements going into gas cloud VFX. They're implementing improvements including the use of particles with signed distance fields to allow shields to more closely conform to the shape of vehicles, allowing for better visibility at distances. They're adding specific effects to show powering on and off and creating clearer visual cues, showing that the shield is being damaged and its overall health. They're putting in more improvements to the HUD system, so this is going to be more advanced scanning and pinging features, including storing of results and an interface to adjust the strength of scans. The functionality for players to move an incapacitated or dead NPC by dragging the body around an environment. The setup of save systems across the game is planned for here too. A variety of ships are also being completed. The Vandal Void Bomber, the Vandal Driller, and Kingship capital ships. Oddly, the Hull C is also listed here, but It's obviously going to be used for Squadron 42. The Vandal Stinger Heavy Fighter, the Vandal Hunter Corvette, and the RSI Bengal military carrier. They're also adding additional gameplay features to some ships, such as usable weapons racks, where players can store small arms in an external bay for use on missions. Let's check out the plans for Q1 2020. So this is where the sort of like alpha stage of Squadron 42 is, and the optimization stage is planned to be. So they're going to be putting in color processing and core tech required for HDR monitor outputs, improvements to the render thread performance, which is going to cut down on CPU usage. And some of the goals in this feature also include 4K resolution support, support for static render to texture services, and improvements to the occlusion system. Continued development of the cinematic rendering, including a new depth of field technique, temporal supersampling for high quality anti-alias cinematics, and multi-frame image capture for super high resolution outputs. Efficiency improvements to the mesh and texture streaming systems to provide greater detail with lower memory usage, and improved screen space reflections and support for mirrors via render to texture. Q2 2020. This is where the beta of the game is planned to fall. So at this stage, the game is close to completion. This final pass will fix any lingering bugs and address remaining feedback before the official release. Now, that was a lot of information. If I keep on saying added or is going in here, that's more when it's planned to be done for the Squadron 42 side and for them. Obviously, they keep on developing and reiterating on these sort of tasks. Some of them will go into the persistent universe, but please tell me what you think about that huge information dump on the Squadron 42 roadmap. Yes, bits are going to change. Yes, almost certainly there's going to be delays on certain items of that. Hopefully it won't push too far forward in time. Hopefully it will be around 2020, sort of mid-2020 when we'll have that beta. That will be absolutely fantastic. During December, we are giving away a Star Citizen game package, Saber Raven, and CitizenCon 2948 goodies pack. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning those is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my videos made during December. More details are linked below. And if you are considering getting a new gaming PC or upgrading, first, please consider the Shadow Cloud gaming service. It leverages the power of your internet connection to turn a device, be it phone, laptop, tablet, or PC, into a powerful Windows 10 gaming rig. I've seen people just use their phones and a gamepad now to play Star Citizen. It works great for me in Star Citizen Alpha 3.3.7, and the Shadow guys keep on updating both their hardware and software. Your mileage may vary with Shadow though, based on your internet connection, so please bear that in mind. It is subscription based, and using the code BoredGamer will net you a discount. If you don't have Star Citizen yet, then please check out the links below as well to get 5,000 UEC, the in-game currency, as a bonus. Any comments and feedback is appreciated. Please take care, guys, and I'll see you in the verse.